I think that these biomechanics are going to change how we view our lives and how we view aging quite a bit. The reason for that is I think it's going to make us productive a lot longer than humans typically have been. I'll give an example of myself. I'm 47. I view the future almost like I'm 25 again, which is crazy. Like, I have so much ahead of me when I compare to how I used to think, at 47, I would have thought, oh, okay, like it's all downhill. I've hit my peak, and I should start thinking very seriously about my retirement. And that's not how I think at all anymore. To go back a little bit, in 2020, I had left myself with a posterior open bite and wasn't supporting it with a mouth guard in 2019 and into 2020. And so by the end of 2020, I really felt crappy and I couldn't concentrate. I couldn't really work. I had to pull myself out of what I was doing and I started freelancing. I felt fried at like 5 or 6 p.m. every day. And I would just veg in front of Netflix. And I had all the subscriptions back then because I would just veg for like 7 hours a night, right? From about 5 or 6 p.m. on. And all I was doing for a while at that point was I was thinking, I was calculating in my head, like, okay, I feel so crappy. What do I need to do to just retire? Right. And then that's the thought I had all the time. How my investments doing, blah, blah, blah. And it was like my plan B, which was, retiring, had just become my like plan A. And so that's how I continued until I started getting better, which I started getting better around late 2021. And then, I was recovering in 2022. And then by 2023, it was like I was forgetting my plan B. Like, I no longer cared about this plan B of retiring. And like, the thought never even entered my mind. Like, it was all plan A again. It was, what am I going to do in the coming years, like achieving my goals, right? And I was starting my own business, trying to do a lot of different things. Some of it successful, some of it not, but it was like the whole plan B thing had gone out of my head. There was no effort to it, like I wasn't like taking a course about how to think differently or anything like this. It's changed because I was feeling healthier and my drive came back. And the more I got healthy, the more like this idea of retiring seemed so sucky, right? Like, I live in Thailand already for 5-6 years. I can go to a beach anytime I want. And this idea of just sitting on a beach, like I see a lot of retired expats living in Thailand. The idea of being like, damn, just started to like feel like, wow, like why would I ever want to do that? I go there, we go to the beach, once every month for a weekend. But the second day I'm bored stiff and I'm usually in my hotel room instead of on the beach working. And some people really enjoy retirement. I'm not going to take anything away from them. They're traveling around the world and I'm sure you enjoy it for a while. But like for me, it's so much more exciting to be building something, to be building a company and engaging your mind in something. And so that is the mindset that I was back into, for the last few years. And I really feel like my kind of biological clock changed. So if you think about like the typical biological clock of humans, go to school, we finish, we'll hopefully, most of us graduate from college in our early 20s and then start working. And 20s are all about exploring, finding your career, finding what you want to do. And then your 30s and your 40s are where you really push. Like your 30s, you're kind of getting more ambitious, moving up in whatever you're doing. And by your 40s, you kind of like hit that peak, right? And then like by your late 40s, you're already like, you're either an executive and you made it, or you're kind of like plateauing and sliding down. And that's the reality of like most human lives. That is what I, had in my head for a long time. And now like, I just don't think like that. I think like I have a feeling because of these biomechanics, I can be like I'm in my 30s for the next 30 or 40 years or more, right? Like I want to be achieving and getting, being healthy, achieving things, building things, acting like I have the mindset of my 30s or even my 20s when I'm 50, 60, 70. And like, when you hear that right now, like it sounds a little bit crazy, but when you've been doing this process for a while and you feel yourself getting healthier all the time and you're just, like I feel like I better focus more energy and drive now than I did when I was 25. And you realize, wow, like maybe age, really is just a number and that these biomechanics really set you free in terms of your biological clock. I think this will sound far-fetched for most folks until they're on this, until they're doing this thing for like 6 to 12 months, right? Like I started feeling this way and I was in really bad shape in 2020, but I would say I started feeling this way more like towards the end of my second year. I think it takes a while, but like when you see yourself improving daily for an extended period of time, you really start to challenge the traditional notions of aging and career and all this. So I'll end by talking about, someone that I know. She'd worked in a big company, was kind of like middle management, always saved, always talked about what she wanted to do when she was going to retire. Like a lot of folks in America, she lives in America. She got pushed out a little bit early retired from her company where she had spent like 30 or 40 years working. And also she was in pretty bad physical shape. Because of her health issues, she more or less just stayed home. I want to say she retired like in her very late 50s. And so then she just stayed home and she had this health issue and that health issue. She never did any of this traveling or other stuff that she always like. She always thought like, okay, I'm going to work, bust my butt during my life. And then I'm going to enjoy all this traveling. I'm really going to enjoy my life when I retire, right? Like a lot of Americans do. And then just like a lot of Americans, like their retirement day comes sometimes to leave even earlier than they hope because, that's the reality of the economy. But they're not like doing all this stuff that they plan. And it's often because their health doesn't allow them to do it. For me, that's just like such a sucky way for it to end, right? Like you work your whole life thinking, I'm going to enjoy my retirement. And then your retirement comes and you're just like full of health issues and going to the doctor all the time. And I think that that's just sad. What I hope that this biomechanic trends results in some years is that those folks are no longer screwed like that. Like they retire and they feel like they're 30 and they go and they do amazing things. And to me, that'll just be beautiful.